Hello, everybody.
Hey, how you doing, guys? This is a test of podcasting, and we're going to tell you a paranormal story about something we had a little experience with yesterday.
Correct. Do you want to start off?
Yesterday, we started off talking about EPI, Elgin Paranormal Investigators, and some of our past things that are investigations we've been on, and talking about rebooting it. Well, when we were talking about rebooting it, we were also talking about people that we've lost throughout the years, including Greg Stout, our founder of Elgin Paranormal. And we were talking about how we haven't really noticed anybody talking to us or giving us any signs of them being around. Right. Well, certain people, not everybody.
Right.
And we got on the subject of my Uncle Phil because him and my Aunt Marge were very big believers in the paranormal, and right. They always wanted to hear about our investigations and stuff like that.
Right.
So we're talking about them and about how we don't know if we've heard from them or had anything happen that would be related to them. Well, after we were talking about stuff and we had some errands to run, we ran over to our Goodwill.
Right. Our local Goodwill
we
always
Goodwill.
take a look to see what new stuff they have, because you can find some shit, man.
Or haunted objects.
Or like possibly. Vintage shit.
Anyway, we were over there, and David, I'll let you take it from here because this is where your experience
Okay, so I'm the one that experienced this, so that set off like let's say some events after that.
Wait, let me give him a little background on my uncle.
Okay,
so before we get into David's experience, just some things to note about my uncle was about maybe almost 20 years ago, he owned a restaurant called Uncle John's. And we all David maybe in the beginning wasn't around yet. But us cousins and everybody would work there. My mom worked there.
I know Uncle John's. Yeah.
And my uncle was a very funny, goofy, raunchy person.
To say the least.
And he would always put this little knick-knack Halloween trinket on his counter at Uncle John's, and it was a porta potty with a guy trapped inside of it. And if you hit the button, he would be like, "Help, let me out!" And the porta potty would shake. And this was his humor. This is something that he would get stupid stuff like that to just laugh or make people laugh.
Right.
All right, so he owned a place called Uncle John's.
Okay.
And he always had toilet humor.
Right.
So here we go.
So when we were talking about them, or people that have passed, like, we haven't really heard from them in a sense, or seen any signs, because we're just asking, because we are paranormal investigators. Been doing it for a very long time, decades. But yeah, so what happened was we were at the Goodwill, and I was walking by a place to where it says books, like books, games, whatever people are in there. Walked in, it's like a little small little library type thing. And then all of a sudden I turn the corner and I'm walking up to the bookshelf, and all of a sudden this book is slid out, mind you. We're gonna have to, insert photo.
So it was sticking out?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll insert that photo in this video. So at this point you'll see, boom.
His picture.
The picture. So all of a sudden I walk in and I turn around. It's this blue, purpley, like this book stands out like bar none. But just the colors of it would make you be like, your eyes just
directly go
to it. So all of a sudden it says Uncle John's Fascinating Toilet Reads. And I don't know where Uncle John toilet, like bathroom reads, like the restaurant,
Uncle John,
like the restaurant,
toilet.
Like here's the book in Uncle John's when you're taking a crap. Like here's the book that you can read at Uncle John's while you're taking a shit.
Or it was just by Uncle John.
No, it says Uncle John's Fascinating Toilet Reads.
But the author wasn't Uncle John?
I don't know what the author is. I didn't look. But but that's besides the fact. This is because we're talking about Phil
and Uncle John,
and then all this stuff, and then whoever, anybody else that we've talked about, and then we got up and left. All of a sudden, here I am walking around, and I'm like, let me go in here real quick. I don't know why I went in there. Sometimes, most of the time, I never go in there. So I go in there, I turn the corner, and I'm like, okay. Like, I took a picture, and you'll see it. Then all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, that's something that he would let you know that, yeah.
And he told me about it because we're both very skeptical, but I think he's more skeptical than me.
Right.
And he told me
but I point everything out. I can be like, well, it's coincidence, but this is right up.
It could
this
be
is what he would
coincidence.
do, 100%.
Exactly. This is something like when you told me that, I was like, Uncle Phil.
Right. He's saying, he's letting us know in a different way of like, yeah, I'm here.
But that's not where it ends.
Right.
That's
not
where
it ends either.
Because, all right, we wrapped up at Goodwill.
Right.
And we checked out, we left, and we had to stop at another store, which was a Dollar General.
Right.
So we go into the Dollar General, doing our thing, and I went down the one aisle. I didn't touch anything. I went straight to the end cap because I was looking at shoes. And all of a sudden, out of my peripheral vision, I see a bag of Pampers coming at me and lands on the floor. Now, mind you, the aisle is probably like 5 feet,
No,
6 feet
it's,
wide.
It's 6 feet, like a
maybe 6,
corridor
7 feet
in a
wide.
supermarket.
Like,
yeah.
like if you go into a store, the aisles, how they're spaced.
Right.
I was walking on the right side of the aisle, and the Pampers are on the left side of the aisle. And then I just went to the end cap, and whoop! And I stopped. I looked. I went to the end of the aisle. I looked down both ways. Nobody's around, and I see David. And I looked at him, and I'm like, did you see that?
And here I am, right,
And he saw
turning the corner. Okay, mind you, when that happened, I'm turning the corner, and I see this thing just launch 4 to 5, like someone threw it. Like, I'm just turning the corner, all of a sudden, whoom, I'm like, and then she's turning around and picking it up. I'm like, am I going mental, or did I just, then she looked at me, and I'm like,
because out of my peripheral,
I'm like,
it didn't just fall from the shelf.
No.
It flew.
No, it flew and
like
then
2
hit the
feet
floor
from
and
the
then
shelf.
bounced right by her foot. And she was already turned the corner and it flew out to where it's in the next aisle. Almost, right?
Mm-hmm. No, it was like at the edge of the aisle by the end cap.
Right. So a good distance, right? You're talking for a person, length of a person laying
7
down.
feet aisle.
6 feet, yeah.
It would be like flew 7 feet.
Right. So give you context. So what we do, we're like, okay.
Nobody's around.
Like, okay.
Nobody touched any diapers.
Then we walked up there, put the stuff back on the shelf, and we're trying to debunk. I'm
how
just pushing it and
flew.
then dropping it to see it just falls straight to the ground.
Even when it hit the box below it, it would just bounce and fall on the floor.
Right.
It didn't fly.
This thing was already in the next, almost the freaking next aisle.
So today,
I wish I had my camera. Like, those are the points where you're just like, where people have their camera and shit on all the time. I'm just like, turn the corner, and I'm just walking, and I see that.
But then today, I realized that what I told you about the porta potty that he used to put on the counter for Halloween that shook and screamed, "Let me out!"
Right.
And what are diapers used for?
Taking a shit.
Taking a crap. So I'm like,
and what was the book?
toilet stuff.
So, I mean, you can read that into it, but I mean, it's just, I mean, we didn't even think of that at the time.
It's just totally his humor.
We just thought of it now about the toilet, like
it's totally
like,
my uncle's humor.
Because I'm like, why diapers? And I'm like,
Because he'd throw toilet time at me, and that was the closest thing.
And that was the closest thing to get your attention. Don't know if it was a coincidence that this stuff was happening, or something follow us from. Because remember, good places like that do hold residual energy.
We were at Goodwill.
You know, people bring stuff home. You know, like vintage stuff or stuff they got from like, you know, because people, you know, from like estate sales drop stuff off. Like next thing you know, you hear. I've heard
a lot of haunted items.
Tons of stories where people bring something home, and next thing you know, they're laying in bed and they hear walking in the house and weird.
So be aware
stuff.
when you shop at thrift stores, any kinds of thrift stores.
All of a sudden, when you start hearing stuff that's not there or weird
possibly
stuff,
bring something.
Possibly, and stuff starts happening, and you're not really understanding what the hell's going on.
Think about what you just purchased. And
what did you
got it
purchase?
from.
Where did you get it? Is it a used item or what is it?
And when the activity started.
Right. Because it can correlate a lot of things. Even if you don't believe, it's one hell of a coincidence.
We don't know either. It's just a bunch of theories.
I'm not 100%, you know, I'm a skeptic. So,
could it be? Could it not be?
But when you start joining dots and you're like, how random.
Isn't it ironic?
Don't you think? But like I said, how weird is like when you're talking about somebody and all of a sudden
something weird like that happens.
Things are just like pushed out at you, like, and you're not even really thinking about like
And it's stuff that doesn't always happen.
And then I noticed with the paranormal and stuff like that, everything's in riddles. It's almost like the Joker or the Riddler trying to like...
Or with us.
You're trying to like figure out like what is the message. Even though it's like, it's like, well, who... Especially when you're talking about somebody or things happen and you're like, it's subtle. But yet when you start thinking about the meanings behind it, because like, the diapers, bathroom, you start thinking about what does this have to do with anything?
That's why my question would be like, answer in the comments if you've ever experienced this.
Right.
When we start talking
like
about
that.
when we start talking about the paranormal, like nothing will happen for months.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Nothing questionable.
Right.
And then the minute we start talking about like people that have passed,
Or like,
or just the paranormal in
or
general,
just talking to them like, hey, where are you? Stop on in to let us know you're still.
or just talking about the paranormal
saying, hey,
in general.
bro, what's up? There's
all of a
something,
sudden,
maybe.
even just talking about it in general, all of a sudden something weird will happen. Like just after we're talking.
But not all the time.
Not all the time. But has
I'll
anybody
be
ever?
honest, not all the time does that happen.
If
But when
anybody
it does,
has ever experienced that, comment in the section below.
it's weird. Yep. And on that note, very interesting.
So that's it for our test run. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to making
And those
more
who know
like these.
that individual will know what we're talking
My
about.
family.
Yeah, but like, or at least be like, yeah,
Maybe.
who knows?
So yeah, everybody have a good day, and we'll be back at you with more. Stay tuned.
More stories to come.